and gentlemen, the first car ever over 195 miles an hour, and if I'm not mistaken, the 194-mile-an-hour speed from yesterday backs that up for a new IHRA Winston world record. What a run!
Welcome you to Milan, Michigan and the Motorcraft Northern Nationals. I'm Bob Jenkins along with Larry Newber. And as you saw, we've had some tremendous speeds here this weekend. In qualifying, Bruce Allen over 195 miles an hour. But he has two others to contend with in the points battle in Pro Stock.
First of all, let's talk about Bob Glidden, the old veteran who has come back after a very frightening crash earlier this year. I think we're still searching for the heir apparent to Lee Shepard, who, of course, was tragically killed last year. Glidden seemed like he was in the best position to get it, but it hasn't happened. He hasn't been able to catch one guy who we'll talk about in just a couple of minutes, Bruce Allen. 195 miles an hour. I think that says just about all you have to say about this young Charger. It looked like he was the one in the best position to pick up where Lee Shepard left off, particularly because Allen was with his old team. But it really hasn't happened that way in 1986. And then you get to Darrell Alderman. He's won twice this year, as Glidden has, but with the 190s being clicked off by Allen and Glidden, this guy's got to be checking the weather reports. Where are they coming from next at me?
The Pro Funny Car battle is between two drivers, Mark Oswald and Paul Smith.
Mark Oswald, Bob, you can't really say this is a comeback year for Mark because he hasn't had any disastrous years, but this could be one of his better. He only won twice in all of 1985, and already he's won two times in 1986. And then we come to Paul Smith. A great season for this guy, a veteran who's been along a long time, but without a doubt, this is his best season ever. Already a first and a runner-up, and certainly he has become someone to be reckoned with every time out.
The third member of our broadcast crew for today is Marty Reed. Let's go to him in the pit area.
This is the staging area, the staging lanes, and they're jammed full of cars, and that's exactly what the point standings look like in the three professional categories. No less than 4 drivers in each of those top 3 categories are battling for the Winston World Championship. What it comes down to is that by the end of this day, someone who is in 4th place could end up in 1st. It's that close.
All right, thank you, Marty. The Motorcraft Northern Nationals are brought to you by Motorcraft Quality Parts from Ford. Drag Review, all you need to know about drag racing. We'll be back to begin our eliminations here in the quarterfinals after this message. Welcome you back to the Motorcraft Northern Nationals from Milan, Michigan, and we're set to begin quarterfinal elimination in Pro Alcohol Funny Cars. One of the drivers involved in this quarterfinal round will be Scott Coletta from Michigan, and he was involved in an incident yesterday here at Milan.
Here's Scott Coletta, you see at the end of his run, getting a little bit of that characteristic bounce, but the car not coming to a stop. He has to skid off into the skid pile of sand at the end of the course. Scott bounding out immediately saying, hey, I'm okay.
So Scott Coletta survives that little incident yesterday during a run here. And just after he got out of this car, Marty Reed caught up with him to talk about what happened. You can see the disgust on the part of Scott Coletta.
Scott, you okay?
Yeah.
What happened?
The first, hang on.
Yeah.
The first shoe got tangled up and it didn't come out, and I thought, well, it ought to hit, and it didn't hit, and I was on the brakes, and by the time I got to the other chute, it was already too late. It started bouncing.
Sand pit did its job.
Yeah, it helped. You know, I said, going too fast to try and make the turn, so give it a try.
Looks like you got a lot of cleanup work, but is there any major damage, you think?
No, the front lip on the body, it tore it off, but we got the guy that extended the nose on it. He's here, so he can fix it.
Nice piece of driving.
Thank you.
Well, there wasn't much damage on that car, and he has survived to the quarterfinals. And his opponent here in this round is going to be Tim Gross.
You know, that's one of those moments, Bob, where I think as we're watching it on TV, we kind of take it for granted, but his experience really makes a big difference in a situation like that.
And we talked to Tim Gross about communications at the line and what goes through his mind.
probably because of our relationship and all that. There's just eye contact means a lot, where other people don't even see that and all that. And just verbal communication, she doesn't have to do any bold signals. She can just do some very careful, well-calculated signals and even speak to me, and I can read her lips.
So we have the 4th against the 5th fastest qualifiers in Pro Funny Cars. It's Gross against Coletta, and it appears as if Tim Gross is going to walk off with a victory here in the quarterfinals.
Showing at 239 miles an hour, a 5.9 on Gross. His reaction time might have made the difference. It's 5.17. The reaction time on Scott Coletta, 0.583. And you can see Coletta also getting a little bit out of shape, a lot out of shape as he comes down the strip.
Almost crossed that line and disqualified himself, but did hang on. Nevertheless, it was a rather easy win for Tim Gross from Saugus, California, with a 594, a 239.36 mile-an-hour run.
Tim Gross, the winner, looking like he just stepped out of a Steven Spielberg science fiction movie.
It's Paul Smith against Kenny Bernstein coming up in this round. We talked to Paul's son, Mike, about communications at the line.
Basically, I use hand signals, like, you know, on idle pressure, I go high side, low side. On the high speeds, I tell him, you know, make sure that one's down. I communicate with my mouth a little bit, too. And, make sure, okay, basic stuff.
Paul Smith in the near lane and Kenny Bernstein in the far lane. Bernstein's team, of course, headed by Dale Armstrong. We talked to Kenny about this terrific team.
Well, I'd say it was fairly true. I think starting with Bristol 4 weeks ago, where we were runner-up there and had a good chance to win the race, and then the next week we've been in the finals the last 4 straight weekends. We won 2 of the 4, so I think the Budweiser King now is starting to reassert itself as knowing what we're doing and getting back that consistency that Dale Armstrong strives so hard to get.
Kenny Bernstein in the Ford Tempo against Paul Smith in the Dodge, set to go in the quarterfinals.
It's a big moment for Smith. He wants to do well this year. He's off. Does he have a chance against the King, against Bernstein? Smith has been to the finals twice. He's out of control.
And smoking the tires, and Kenny Bernstein takes it with a 595, a 253.52 mile-an-hour run. Kenny Bernstein moves to the semifinals, and let's take a look at it once again.
Everybody in the pits has got to be looking toward Bernstein now in the funny cars. It began a little slowly this year. They're gaining momentum. Bernstein may be coming on.
Kenny Bernstein, who now makes his home in Newport Beach, California, originally from Dallas, Texas, but he spends a lot of time in the Indianapolis, Indiana area because that's where he's located his motorsports marketing business. Doc Halliday set to go. He's from St. Paul, Minnesota, our 7th fastest qualifier of the meet, against Mark Oswald from Cleves, Ohio. And once again, we talked to Mark Oswald about the communications with other drivers when he's on the line.
Oh, it's definitely important. When we do our little dry burn out there, he can tell a lot of things the car does that I can't tell, from inside the car. He can see how much the clutch slips, if the tires turn or what, and we can make adjustments accordingly. Plus, it's real critical to be right in the groove of the racetrack.
Quarterfinals, it's an easy win, it looks like, for Mark Oswald as Doc Halliday has trouble.
The Daytona Telstar didn't do too much Telstarring here in this meet as he stops right after leaving the line. Mark turns in a modest 239 miles an hour, but 69 miles an hour I think would have been enough to win that one.
Ed, the Ace McCullough, set to go against Tom, the Mongoose McEwen, and the question to Ace was communications at the line.
It's very important to have a fella, your crew chief, on the outside that can get a good visual at what's going on. If he spots something or he feels something's not quite right, he has a crew lift the body up, make an adjustment, repair whatever needs to happen.
The comments from Ed, the Ace McCullough. His opponent in this quarterfinal round is from Fountain Valley, California, Tom the Mongoose McEwen, one of those involved in the IHRA points race.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty good finish, I think. The competition's real good, and anybody can win a race and jump right to the head of this thing. So it's still pretty early, middle of the season. Anything can happen. It's like a basketball game, the last 5 minutes type of thing. So who knows? It's too soon to tell yet.
Words very well taken. In any division in racing, to win the points championship takes a couple of years of planning, really. it's a long haul no matter what league you're in.
They're off the line, and Ed the Ace McCullough is going to win it as McEwen, it appeared, backed off, only turned in a 108-mile-an-hour run, but the winner, Ed the Ace McCullough, has a 6:01, a 245.90.
A Forenza moving along, moving up the eliminator charts ladder, and you don't see too very many Forenzas in this day and age moving along.
And so the semifinalists are set, and we'll be back with more from Milan, Michigan, right after this, the Pro Stock quarterback of the Motorcraft Northern Nationals in Milan, Michigan.
Looking at the Hearst Performance truck, last night the Hearst people put up $4,300 for the Hearst Pro Stock Shootout, as they do every Saturday night before an event. By the way, the winners at the end of the year go for $15,000 at a big event in Bristol.
It's Ewing against Glidden here in this quarterfinal round, and of course Larry referred earlier to a bad crash that Glidden had earlier this year. We talked to him about that.
When you go through a crash like that, you learn that, or I learned, that the years of experience meant nothing. I was still, I'm very much afraid when I got on the starting line and when I had to go down the racetrack for a few runs at least.
Interesting comment from Bob Glidden, who said he was actually afraid to get back into a car.
Good race.
Yeah, he's leading at the moment, and he wins.
Glidden, I got to tell you, Bob, I'm very impressed that he has come back. That was a megalithic crash. There you see the speed, 193 miles an hour. Bob Glidden has been knocking off the 190s this weekend. Very impressed that he's back, and he's making the most of it.
Boy, the speeds are just tremendous here this weekend in Milan. Bob Glidden moves to the semifinals, having defeated Billy Ewing. Next up will be Jim Ruth against Ricky Smith. Ruth, of course, from Moorhead, Kentucky, and we asked him about communications.
Well, we pretty well know what we're going to do before we get there. We don't, very little communication. It's pretty well cut and dry to program by the time we get there.
And his opponent in this round is going to be Ricky Smith from King, North Carolina, who defeated Charlie Peppers earlier. He's one of those involved in the points race. We asked Ricky about it.
It's as close as it's ever been right now. We've had in probably 3 or 4 years. It's more competitive, and all we got to do is win a race right now. And even if a guy's second in the points, finish the second, we'll jump in front of him. So it's just real tight right now, and hopefully it'll stay that way to the end of the year, and that way you got a good race of 4 or 5 cars for the championship.
Ricky Smith is in the far lane, and Jim Ruth in the near lane. They're off.
It's a good run. Smith looks like he has an advantage. The man who is very good off the line looks like he's able to maintain it. Yes, this win goes to Ricky Smith. Oh, another 190.
It was tight. 7:45 for Smith and a 7:48 for Ruth. 192.30 for Ricky Smith miles an hour and a 187.89 for Jim Ruth. So Ruth goes down to defeat, but not before a courageous battle.
Ricky Smith in the far lane there turned in a reaction time of .53. In an earlier round, he went .568, so he really slowed down a lot, like 0.03 of a second on that one, but wasn't enough to cost him the victory.
Coming up, it's Bruce Allen from Arlington, Texas, in the Levi Garrett Camaro against Frank Iaconio from Totowa, New Jersey, in the Motorcraft T-Bird.
You know, Bob, sponsors have become very hard to get in certain areas of automobile racing in 1986, and we have here two of the more loyal sponsors, Motorcraft there on the cars of Frank Iaconio, and in Bruce Allen's machine, the Levi Garrett people, who of course are also active in IMSA and NASCAR.
Bruce Allen, one of those involved in the Pro Stock points race in IHRA, and we had a chance to ask him about this race.
Yeah, last year it got awful competitive. At the end of the year, people started running better and better, and over the winter, looks like everybody did their homework and came out here this year just ready to go.
One would think that with the tremendous qualifying performance turned in by Bruce that he would win this. Let's watch, though. He may be
staggering.
upset.
He is staggering. Allen has been beaten.
So it is Frank Iaconio who upsets Bruce Allen. Iaconio turns in a 191.48, a 746. And Bruce Allen goes down to defeat after qualifying at 195 miles an hour.
I tell you, that could have been a really good race. Obviously, Allen had some type of mechanical difficulty there, and I wish the car would have made it all the way down the strip, because going 190, Iaconio turned in a good run.
A couple of real veterans going here. It's Roy Hill from from Sophia, North Carolina, against Darrell Alderman. Alderman earlier beat Bob Harris, and Hill beat Bob Olson. We talked to Hill.
Well, we've been working real hard for 2 weeks and hope we can move back in the #1 spot. But everybody's trying to do the same thing. Everybody's spending more time and working harder now to go further along in the points. This money that Winston's putting up is really putting people out there to work harder.
Darrell Alderman is from Moorhead, Kentucky. He is 36 years of age and begins his 4th season in IHRA competition. We had a chance to talk with Darrell Alderman.
I'd have to say it'd be Ricky. I know Ricky's 3rd right now, but Ricky Smith, because he is so tough. He's a good driver, and he can be running slower and be in the finals.
It's Roy Hill in the far lane in the budget rent-a-car machine against Darrell Alderman near lane. Let's watch him.
Both of them got to this round because opponents in previous rounds, Bob Olson and Bob Harris, red lighted. Could be the first real test for both of them.
Hill is off the line quick, but he's too quick. He red lights. Darrell Alderman going to win. Roy Hill has red lighted.
Boy, all sorts of things psychologically going on for Hill there. Now, watching this replay, Hill seems to be a little hesitant as he comes up to the line. The car is nudging, trying to get a little bit of an advantage. You see it there, waiting now for the green light. And Hill, you can see it right there. He red lights, and moments thereafter, the car got offline and almost totally out of shape.
It's Glidden, Smith, Iaconio, and Alderman in the semifinals of Pro Stock. We'll be back in just a moment. In Milan, Michigan, Bob Jenkins, Larry Nuber, and Marty Reed. The question of the week was to crew chiefs this week. What tool in your toolbox best describes your driver?
If there is one tool that you could pick in the trailer that would best describe your driver, what would it be?
Oh, wow. Oh, let me see. I guess I'd have to compare him to something really solid like our Vice that does the same thing every time.
Oh, Lord, that would be hard with Roy. I guess we give him a screwdriver and turn him loose, right?
Why?
Just his way of doing.
30,000 feeler gauge.
Why?
He's so tedious about every little thing. He's perfect on every little thing. Within 2,000ths of an inch, just put it that way.
Ratchet Joe.
Why?
I don't know, he likes to give orders.
Question is, do you like to take them?
I have to take them.
Well, I tell you, maybe that's not so tough. I would have to go with the Crescent wrench. The reason is that it's a pretty universal tool. Ed's a pretty universal guy.
I would say a micrometer.
Why that?
Well, because he is very picky about things, and he likes things done a certain way, so they have to be down to the exact measurement.
How about a ratchet wrench because he talks and hollers a lot?
A ratchet wrench because he talks and hollers a lot?
Ratchet Joe. He'll kill me.
That's great, thank you.
And it appears as if the ratchet wins in that particular competition. Tommy Johnson Jr. will be going in this first round. He's only a high schooler, and Marty talked with him.
Youngest man driving in the professional ranks this weekend at Milan, Michigan. With me right now, Tommy Johnson. At age 17, you've already been racing like 8-9 years. How'd you get started?
I started when I was 8 years old on three-wheel motorcycles, drag racing. And I moved up on the motorcycles and drove a car. When I was 14, moved into professional racing when I was 15, and I've been driving a funny car for 1 year now.
You're now running in the semifinals at 214 miles an hour, a little over 6 seconds. What's the ride like?
It's exciting. It's the farthest we've gone this year in IHRA racing, and we're really happy with the performance of the car and the people that's helped us. Buick's got us a good car, and Pizza Hut gives us money to go fast, so we're really happy.
You got to go up against Fred Mandolini in the semifinals. He's got all that experience. What are you going to try to do?
I got to put a hole shot on him off the line because he's got a little bit of VT advantage on me.
So he's going to try and step on it. Be ready for him. Tommy Johnson Jr. coming your way.
This perhaps experience versus inexperience. Young Tommy Johnson Jr., 17 from Ottumwa, Iowa, against Fred Mandolini from Schuler Park, Illinois. Tommy is in the near lane.
Johnson's reaction times have been nothing short of that guy who catches bullets in his teeth. Do you suppose he really does that? Well, never mind. At any rate, they have been consistently well below 0.6. The last 2 rounds under 0.5. That's less than half a second.
Pro Alcohol Funny Car semifinal. They're off.
Johnson's got him at the line, but here comes Mandolini. He's coming on. This could be a close one.
It's a close race, but it appears as if Fred Mandolini won.
Oh.
Yes, he did. Mandolini turned in a 6:51 at 221.13.
That is only the second 220-plus mile-per-hour run we have seen in the final 16 elimination cars involved in the finals here. And Mandolini really had to turn it on because, as we told you, young Johnson had him at the line at the other end of the racetrack, but this line right here is the one that makes the difference.
Tommy Johnson with a 6:66 to Mandolini's 6:51. It was a great race. So Mandolini now moves into the final round. Don DeFluter from Kent, Ohio against Bogey Kill from Alabama here in this semifinal round. And the story of the weekend really in this division has been Bogey Kill. He qualified 14th, but here he is in the semifinals.
With a name like Bogey and that paint job, is there any question about where he's from?
Let's watch him. DeFluter against Bogey Kill. They're both being staged, and the green light goes on. Here it is.
That's Kell again in the near lane. DeFluter in the right lane.
Oh, close. Who won? It's Bogey Kill winning.
And DeFluter is being shown as turning in a 216 miles an hour against Kell's 214, but Kell has won this. Here comes that old story about reaction time once again. ET, yeah, it's a factor. Miles per hour is a factor, but you have to add them all up and modify them with the reaction time, and that's what wins races.
Bogey Kell with a 5:46 reaction time and DeFluter with a 5:56. It was that close. We'll be back with more from the Motorcraft Northern Nationals in just a moment.
Here you go.
Form of auto racing, it's imperative that you get from one area to another, especially back here in the pits. And there are literally dozens of vehicles that can be used to get from one place to the other. Oh, and you got to be able to move quickly.
There appears to be at least one drag racing fan not real happy at this
I like
point.
them ones that come mounted with leg shorts and tank tops.
Yeah, right. In the semifinals of the Pro Stock, it's Bob Glidden against Ricky Smith. Drag racing is not a 9-to-5 job. We had a chance to talk with Ricky Smith about this job of drag racing.
Just like anything else, if you're not dedicated to your job, you've got to be able to stay up at midnight or forget that night's sleep and go on to the next day. You know, you've got to be willing to make that sacrifice. This 8-hour job a day, go in at 9, get off at 5. Don't hack it out here.
His opponent is Bob Glidden from Whiteland, Indiana. Here they go.
Wow, did you see the enthusiasm there at the line? One of Glidden's crew members and children, and he helps propel him to another win.
Bob Glidden moves into the finals. He turns in a 7:35, 193.96 miles an hour. Bob Glidden is in the finals.
Both of these guys came into this meet having sailed easily over 190 miles an hour. Glidden kept the pace up, 193. Smith dropped down below 190. First time today in the elimination rounds, he loses.
So Bob Glidden will be looking for his third IHRA title of 1986 in the final. Getting set to square off, Frank Iaconio and the Motorcraft Budweiser T-Bird against Darrell Alderman.
Even though Alderman, as we look at Iaconio, has had a good year, he really faces long odds here. He's not been above 190 yet. Many of his opponents have.
We asked Darrell Alderman about his points battle in IHRA.
It's going to take consistency, a lot of horsepower, and a lot of hard work.
And I guess that's the story of just about everybody in drag racing as the green light flashes on. And it appears as if Alderman is going to win, but it was close.
I think that comes close to one of those things you call a photo finish. But yes, it is. It's not Alderman. Yes, it is Alderman. Alderman goes slower. He only turns in 188. I say only. Iaconio goes 191.
Alderman with a 188.28, but Iaconio with a faster speed, 191.80. Here's the finish. That's how close it was, just about a half car length.
Yeah, Alderman, in case you're interested, reaction time, 0.534. Iaconio, 0.586.
And so we have our finalists in Pro Stock. It'll be Bob Glidden against Darrell Alderman. Meanwhile, back in the Pro Funny Car pits, a lot of work is going on. Tim Gross is getting set for his semifinal round against Kenny Bernstein. We'll be right back. Back at Milan, Michigan for the IHRA Motorcraft Northern Nationals. So often the driver you hear a lot about, but the crew chief is just as important. Here's Marty.
So much of our attention is focused on the drivers as they perform on the track. But there are other people behind the scenes that make these cars go so fast and run so straight. They're the crew chiefs. Too many times they get too much of the blame and not enough of the glory.
The crew chief is really sort of the guy behind the scene that doesn't usually get a lot of coverage. And, you know, those guys, they're outstanding. I mean, they do their job. It's their basic responsibility to make the car run. We work together. Bernie Federley, our crew chief, you know, we work very closely together with, you know, trying to keep this thing running, you know, properly. And it's enable to be successful, you have to work together, you know, with your crew chief.
This is a team effort. We try to prepare for these races before we get to the races, but when it comes time to go up and go down the racetrack, everything has to be perfect. We're not allowed any errors whatsoever in drag racing. So it's the responsibility of the crew chief to see that those errors don't happen.
But it's not only the men that get their elbows greasy working on these cars. There are several women, and they're very good at their jobs.
Barbara's been in there through thick and thin and made lots of sacrifices, more than probably just about any other guy you'd find out here in the ballpark.
Well, I have a lot of responsibilities back here in the pits. When we come back, I try to get everything organized and get everything going on the right motion, and I mix the fuel, and I can take the motor apart and put it back together with Tim when it needs to be done. But fortunately, we have good help now, so it takes a little responsibility off of me.
But talk to any of the crew chiefs, and there is one man that seems to stand out above all the others. It's Dale Armstrong, the man who turns the wrenches on the Budweiser King Ford Tempo.
Well, I would think Dale Armstrong is number one, and I'd be lucky enough just to be hanging at his little feet there. I don't have any of the responsibility Dale Armstrong has.
Oh, I'm undoubtedly number one, but right now Dale Armstrong's doing better. Let's put it that way.
Oh, I think it's just a lot of common sense is what it takes more than anything else, and not getting to a point where you just look around the pits and chase other people. You know, you just sort of have to sit down, look at your equipment, and try and figure out what it's trying to tell you through the use of the parts after a run.
It appears as if women are becoming increasingly popular as crew chiefs and mechanics in drag racing.
Yes, something else, Bob, experience as a competitor also counts.
Mark Oswald against Ed McCullough. We talked to the ace.
Our performance right now, we're actually off pace just a little bit, and if we can get it stepped up, you know, we've got a real shot here at you know, at the World Championship.
Mark Oswald from near Cincinnati, Ohio against Ed McCullough last year here at Milan. Mark Oswald qualified number 7, but lost in the first round. He's in the semis, though, here this year.
Getting down to the real short strokes. The winner here goes into the finals. He'll be the first man to move into the finals here at Milan this weekend. Keeping up ever so carefully to try to get staged.
And the green light goes on. Here they go. And Mark Oswald wins, but it's close, and he's out of shape off the course.
Well, it's McCullough who got off there in the Oldsmobile. You can see the damage that he did as he just skidded off course. 249 being turned in by Oswald, who in the near lane wins this one. But look at McCullough just after he crosses the line, pops the chute, and the car moves over to the edge of the pavement in a very precarious moment.
Yeah, you can see the car is near the edge of the pavement as he comes close to the line, but when he pops the chute, the car gets over into the grass. A little bit of coach work done on the machine, and Ed McCullough goes down to defeat. Mark Oswald is the winner. Let's go down to Marty Reed, who is at the finish line. Marty?
Ed, you okay?
Yeah, I'm all right.
What happened?
I just got out there off the right and wouldn't come back, so I guess hit that cone with the lights.
Looks like just some fiberglass damage outside. Pretty scary moment, though.
Yeah, that's the way it goes.
Ed McCullough with not a whole lot to say after his loss to Mark Oswald.
Bob, you're there to win. He had to stay in the throttle. He wanted to victor this event. That's why he didn't get out of it.
Who will the opponent be for Mark Oswald? Well, it'll either be Kenny Bernstein or Tim Gross. Gross making the burnout and going down the course about halfway down. And Kenny has already done the burnout, but it appears as if he is unable to get that car in reverse to go back to the start line.
You see Dale Armstrong and crew headed down toward Kenny. Now, they have to keep the engine running. There are a lot of very scientific reasons that Kenny cannot shut this thing off. There he sits helplessly. The car simply will not go back into reverse. Gross is in the driver's seat, literally here. He can move up to the staging area. Both cars are at the line. Gross, if he so chooses, can move up to the tree.
And if he does move to the tree, then it's up to the scorer to really give Kenny an adequate amount of time to get back and get himself staged.
It's a very hot day, and we mentioned that Kenny has to keep the engine running. They burn nitro. This is not an easy thing to do, what this crew is doing, as the engine continues to idle and spews out those eye-stinging fumes. But the crew is staying with it. They can get Kenny back to the line as long as Gross doesn't decide to get edgy, move up there, and take off. Kenny can still stay in this race.
Well, some sportsmanship being shown here because Tim Gross has not moved up to the line. He is waiting on Kenny Bernstein to come back, and obviously Tim wants to win, but he wants to win fair and square.
Yeah, he came here to race. You know, you got to figure that both cars got to be heating up a lot more than normal, but Tim Gross, in a tremendously generous gesture, waits for Kenny Bernstein.
Tim Gross is from Saugus, California. He'll be in the far lane against Bernstein. We talked with Tim.
Coming to this event, I know that Kenny's going to be very strong. Mark Oswald has been running very well here as of late. So that's who we're going to go for. We're going to shoot for the big guns and try and take them one at a time.
And the green light comes on. Here they go. Owen and Tim Gross is out of shape. Bernstein wins and goes to the finals.
Boy, Bob, you know, Gross did not deserve that to happen to him. Oh, he had an opportunity to go home free. You can see the 252 turned in by Bernstein. Gross is under 100 miles an hour. You can see Tim right there breaking loose as he comes off the line. Kind of difficult to tell exactly what it might have been, but after that gesture, to have that happen, it's really defeating.
He was all over the course for Tim Gross, but he saved it. No major problem. Let's go to Marty, who is with Kenny Bernstein.
Kenny Bernstein, you seem pretty pumped up from that round.
Well, you know, needless to say, the car couldn't go in reverse. My crew, the whole guys worked hard, pushed it all the way back up the track, and Gross was nice enough to kind of hang in there and wait for us, and then with really no right preparation at all, you know, to go down the racetrack, no dry burnout or anything, then it runs 84, and hats off to my crew. They really worked hard. It was a good one.
This has been one heck of a battle for every single crew out here.
Well, when you got it 990 degrees out here and the humidity about 1,000% here in Milan, it's awful tough on all of us. But again, hats off to the Budweiser King crew. They just did a superb job, and by pushing me back and getting me there in time. I mean, that's a long push, as you know, from way out there back. It's very difficult.
See you in the final.
Oh yeah, we'll be there.
All the finalists are set here at Milan in Pro Funny Car. It'll be Kenny Bernstein against Mark Oswald. Up next, we have the Top Sportsman Finals. Sportsman finals coming up. First of all, in the stock class, it's G.R. Casey from Hastings, Michigan against Gary Bowers from Enon, Ohio.
Casey in the right lane. This is his first national finals ever. Big moment for this guy. You see they start on the handicap system. These are showroom available assembly line stock cars. So theoretically, Bob, you and I could be in this one.
Enon, Ohio, from which Gary Bowers, former world champion, is from, is a very sleepy type town near Springfield, Ohio. Have some relatives living there, and the driver from Enon, Ohio goes down to defeat to G.R. Casey. Now in the super stock division, it's Bob Marshall from Columbus, Ohio against Rick Nicola from Harper, West Virginia.
Now Nicola has already been a runner-up in 1986, and Marshall from Ohio has won twice before the Northern Nationals in this class. They make it close.
But the winner is Bob Marshall from Columbus, Ohio. Big Hemi Dodge taking that particular class. Now in the modified division, it's Thomas Seroff against Sam D'Angelo.
This is in the modified class. They have a dialed-in breakout here. Now these cars are cars designed for drag racing, so we're beginning to step up a little bit in class, and looks like a very easy win.
And the winner is Thomas Seroff from Columbia City, Tennessee. We move next to the quick rod class. It's Randy Cook against Gary Peterson.
Randy Cook is another Ohioan. There are Ohioans sprinkled all over this. As a matter of fact, 4 of them end up winning their class.
And it's an easy win for Randy Cook from Clarksville, Ohio. In Top Sportsman, it's Terry Housley against Harold Martin. This is the car owned by Thomas Hitman Hearns.
Martin seems to be having a problem in that Hearns car staging. You can see the staging light going on and off, and finally he's red lighted. Yes, Martin has eliminated himself even before the race. The crew a little unhappy, but he definitely red lighted, and it started long before that moment. He was having trouble keeping that car inside the staging light.
Terry Housley is the winner. In Super Rod, a tremendously close race. Les Ames against Bob Lasak.
Yeah, we wanted to show you this in stop action because it is so close. There's a breakout of 9.90 on the time here. You can see how quick it is. They both broke out, but the least offender was Les Ames from Newark.
And he wins the Super Rod division. Now going to bikes, it's Jerry West from Temperance, Michigan against Alan Keck from Monroe, Michigan. So a couple of Michiganders going here.
Gives you a taste of what goes on. Oh, look at that guy losing an engine there. That's in the left lane. That's Keck just oiling down something fierce. The left lane. And Bob, we have a lot of finals coming up for the 4-wheel variety drag racers, and that could have an effect.
It could very definitely. It's synthetic oil and very hard to get out of the racetrack. But we'll be back with the finals right after these messages. Stay with us. We're ready for the Pro Stock Finals here in Milan, but Darrell Alderman, who's going up against Bob Glidden in these finals, Darrell Alderman has a problem. The car won't fire, and Bob Glidden's son has gone over to see if he can help Alderman.
Can you believe that Rusty Glidden was one of the people involved in there trying to get the Alderman car refired, and like Tim Gross, waiting for Kenny Bernstein, Bob Glidden has shut off and is waiting for Darrell Alderman. Glidden could just have taken the free ride and won a championship here, but obviously he came to race.
Well, we've seen a couple of instances of great sportsmanship displayed here at Milan, Michigan this weekend, and this is one of them. And Alderman appears has gotten the car started. He does the burnout, and now we get set for the finals. Bob Glidden from Whiteland, Indiana against Darrell Alderman. Last year here at Milan, Bob Glidden lost to Tim Neighbors in the second round, and Darrell Alderman was upset in the first round by Tim Neighbors.
Overwhelming favorite, Glidden. He's had the best ET, a 7.367 so far this weekend, and Alderman has not even been above 190 miles per hour yet. Glidden has been there with ease.
Bob Glidden is in the far lane and Darrell Alderman in the near lane. This is the finals of the Pro Stock division here at Milan. Let's see what happens. And they're up. Glidden has the advantage.
Oh, and Glidden carries it down the course. Alderman got a little bit slippery right where that oil was. I saw the quick dry kick up. Could that have been a factor? I was about to say if enthusiasm goes for any miles per hour or lower ET, geez, I'll tell you, Glidden wins hands down.
Bob Glidden wins his third of the year in IHRA. Let's go down to the finish line. Marty Reed is with Bob Glidden.
I want to talk about the fact that earlier today we talked about you having some fear after that crash in Atlanta and being conservative, but all weekend long and all day today you were not conservative.
Well, I was conservative. Our car simply went down the track extremely well here. Even after the oil down, you know, a lot of oil dry did get blown over in the other lane, but the car went right down the track. I have no idea what I run. I must have run a middle or low 30.
Super performance all weekend.
Thank you very much. We needed it mentally and financially.
A great competitor in the sport of drag racing, Bob Glidden. Our congratulations to him, the winner in Pro Stock. Pro Alcohol Funny Car Finals. It's Fred Mandolini against Bogey Kell.
Mandolini has been above 220 miles an hour, Kell. His best time so far, make that best speed, has been 218, and it looks like Mandolini has the advantage heading homeward.
He does. It's Fred Mandolini in an Olds beating Bogey Kell in the Trans Am.
Illinois over Alabama, and it was that left lane again. Could that be the telltale sign of what happened in that drag bike race?
I think it's playing a definite factor here in our finals. The Fred Mandolini run was a 2:12.26, and Bogey Kell, who remember was the 14th fastest qualifier this weekend, but made it into the finals, turned in a 200 mile an hour even, 6:56 to a 6:72. Now it's Kenny Bernstein against Mark Oswald in Pro Funny Cars.
Kenny Bernstein on the left, Oswald on the right. This may be the classic matchup of this weekend. A two-time IHRA world champion, Oswald, and Bernstein in the left lane. He's the guy who won everything a year ago.
Can he do it again? And it is. Oswald slipped, and it could have been the oil once again. Kenny Bernstein wins.
It seemed like the difference was that Oswald was just not able to maintain a straight arrow line. You see the 253 miles an hour turned in for Bernstein. He's been faster. Many have been faster, but boy, that's fast enough for today.
Kenny Bernstein wins here with a 253.52 mile an hour run against a 238.09. 587 was the ET for Bernstein and a 599 for Mark Oswald. Let's go to Marty.
Up underneath that helmet, a very happy Kenny Bernstein. Got to tell you, you ran a 587. Another victory in the column.
Well, that was nice, I'll tell you. Excuse me a second. Mark had a good run. It was a good race. You know, I was a little taste late off the starting line. I watched him a little while, and then the Budweiser King went ahead and came around him down there, but it was a good race.
He ran a 599, so it had to be close.
Well, it was. Like I said, he was out of taste on me, but about half track, I felt it go around him, and I thought it'd be okay, but you never know down at this end with them. They run awful good.
This was a real battle today, just trying to figure out the track, the weather conditions, everything.
Well, it is, and, you know, that's the name of the game in this the summertime when you go racing and drag racing. And with Dale Armstrong and my entire crew with Jim and Jeff and Brad and Charlie and everybody it takes to really do the operation, but Dale with his decisions that he's made have always been right there, and boy, I tell you, it's just it's been good today, and he earned his pay today, let's put it that way.
Well, there's a bunch of happy crew members behind. Let's let you go celebrate.
Well, I tell you what, we're happy for all of them, and for Budweiser, Motorcraft, and Ford, it's a nice one, and ESPN, we love your station. Hey, way to go, Michael.
And it seems that he has had great luck in winning on ESPN. Bernstein, Glidden, and Mandolini are the champions here at Milan. We'll be back for some closing comments in a moment.
Just wasn't enough racetrack out of that.
In IHRA drag racing today, some oil on the track spelled disaster for many drivers.
Bob, you spend all winter at the draftsman board, at the computer, in the wind tunnel. You race against your opponents. You race against yourself, what's under the hood, what's under the helmet. But Mark Oswald probably said it best. Sometimes lane choice is what makes the determining factor. We all have to live with it, and that's just racing. That's the way it goes.
Let's get our closing comments now from Marty Reed.
When this day began, we talked about how the standings could change as far as the points race was concerned, and that is the case in Pro Funny Car. Mark Oswald, despite today's loss to Kenny Bernstein, moves into the #1 slot. Darrell Alderman, despite his loss, remains #1, but the gap has been narrowed that much closer in Pro Stock. And in Pro Alcohol Funny Car, for the 6th time in 6 races, a new champion. So the battles are not over. The war has yet to be won. We'll see you at Martin, Michigan.
All right, thank you, Marty. And thank you for joining us for these Motorcraft Northern Nationals. This IHRA drag race has been brought to you by Motorcraft Quality Parts from Ford. And by Drag Review, all you need to know about drag racing. For Marty Reed and Larry Newber, this is Bob Jenkins. So long, everyone, from Milan, Michigan.